Today we have Julia. I sent you an email kind of just with respect to a little bit about Julia. So for those of you guys that are on here, Julia is one of our clients. She is running a rental campaign. However, she is part of an area where we don't actually have a feed of listings for her. So she's utilizing or taking advantage of the automation in the AgentLocator platform. However, she's missing that one component that has the automatic listing. So that's the, I guess the primary difference. Everything else is the same with respect to, filters, campaigns, all of that stuff. It's all exactly the same. So we do get individuals like Julia from time to time that want to take advantage of our platforms, but also, indication like, sometimes we have mortgage agents that also want to be running campaigns or doing things where, of course, they don't have listings. Now, and then just taking a quick peek in Julia's account, I know we've had a couple of sessions on things. We haven't had a follow-up session. It was a little while back anyway, with respect to everything. I would have to pull that up. But the primary thing that I'm noticing, and again, you can walk us through as well, Julia, is like when I'm looking at your system, I'm seeing the automation as far as the text campaigns and the things that are going out when that lead registers. However, anything beyond that, so like call logging, things like that, that's what I'm, primarily not seeing. Not saying you're not calling your leads. It's just not identified in the system. And so, whether we're having listing feeds or no listing feeds, again, tracking, and I guess Beverly, you can touch base on this a little bit as well, as tracking that what we're doing in a system or a centralized system to make sure that we're not having leads to the crack. And Beverly, have you dealt with somebody before like this where they have a system where they're taking advantage of it, but all the components aren't necessarily in that one system? And what would your guidance on something like that?
100%. And that's where well, first I want to ask Julia, where are you at in Virginia?
Right outside of DC, so Northern Virginia market.
Right outside of what area, what town?
Alexandria, okay. Fairfax County.
Yep. My team and my business was in Culpeper.
Okay. Yep. Not too far.
And my ex-husband was Fairfax County Police, so I'm very familiar with that area. What made you get an AgentLocator?
I was actually one of my good friends. I came from Rental Beast. I'm still with them, but one of my good friends had recommended homes.com. He said apparently they did give out rental leads, but they didn't advertise it. I was on that platform for about a year, and then they got sold to CoStar, I believe. And that lead flow, which was amazing, got cut off. And so I spent a year trying to find a replacement, came across, your company. And at the time, there was like, hey, you're out in your market. But the gentleman I'd spoken to never offered an alternative, and I'm not sure if there was one. I believe he would have had there been. I'm sorry. I forgot about your company. Spent like 3 months trying to go through my emails. I'm like, who did I talk to? Who was that? Ended up reaching out, found your information. Ended up speaking with Canoe, and she's like, yeah, we can help you. It's going to be a little bit different, but I think we can make it work. And I was just like, that's fine. I'm just looking for this, specifically a rental replacement. And it's right around December, finally got everything up and going. And I think my first ad campaign on Facebook started December 11th. And it's been running since, and I've been increasing my ad spend. But this is exactly what I wanted for. Like, I'm not upset anymore that I don't have the MLS component. The way that I run my rental side of my business, it's actually perfect. So it doesn't really matter that they're not pulling leads or pulling properties specifically from. Now, once that capability is added, certainly it just makes everything better. But for what it's doing right now, and you had touched on why aren't I making calls as they're coming in? And I've kind of been playing back and forth. I've been a realtor since 2015, so this is something I'm used to doing. And specifically, one of the things that in my automations is I have them fill out this form, and it gives me all the answers that I need. And then from there, I take that and I build them out a custom cart inside of my MLS, and I can track the activity that way. So I'm typically not talking to the lead until they filled out that form. And it seems to be going well. I have a 13% conversion rate. And I do make calls here and there, but I started calling originally and they're like, who is this? What's going on? And they seem like absolutely confused. And then I found that as the longer I was in the agent locator system and tagging and working it, it kind of sorted itself out. And I realized that they're more likely. I had somebody who had signed up maybe about 39 days ago, and then all of a sudden I get a Google ad form or ad complete, like a Google form completed, that they're ready. Reach out to them. They're like, oh, hey, Julia, thanks for all the emails. Here's what I need. Can you set me up? And it was like a very seamless transition. And it's not to say don't call, because I still do. But this particular form or this method that I'm using, I tend to like. So
That's awesome. So Crystal, everyone's gonna like want to start getting rental leads because
they should.
that's so easy, right?
If I could say nothing
and I
else.
love that because I love the versatility of taking something and making it work for you. And that's really what you've done. And this is such a clear indication of what I've always driven in my trainings in regards to knowing where your leads are coming from and knowing what they're looking for. Because whenever you are bringing in rental leads, they're a different animal than a buyer lead or a seller lead. Sometimes you just can't get rid of them, right? It's it's like a lot of us as agents don't really invest a lot of time in that rental aspect. But if you are in a market that rentals pay really well and you know how to nurture, you have a long-term client for life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the one thing that I love about Agent Locator is its affordability to be able to give you a quality dashboard to be able to organize your leads and keep your leads. And to your point with your, so what I think I hear you saying is you have a drip campaign. Whenever they register, they get sent a link to fill out a form, which is a Google form.
Yes. And that literally every day, it's at first it was slow, and finally I wake up or throughout the day, I'll get 2 to 3 forms in my inbox. It's pretty cool. I don't know if I can do screen share, but I don't have to go searching. I have an email specifically set up for that. It's attached to all of my devices, so it pops up. I just go in, create the cart, do twofold too, because I email them as well. Just let them know, hey, I just sent this to you, so that they're looking for it. It's super streamlined, but it has taken me years to come up with a system that works for me and how I run rentals. I mentor other agents, and I'm just like, make rentals a side hustle, or if nothing else, a pillar in your business, because the cost per lead acquisition is so stupidly low that it would be foolish to bypass it. But you also have better buyer clients because they've already worked with you. They like your feet. And the other thing too is you have to be organized. And having a system like this is probably the first time. Like I'm coming from LionDesk and I still have them, but I've never seen a platform that makes sense like Agent Locator does. And
yeah, I'm not a fan of LionDesk.
Yeah. Not only am I particular, but it makes it so it can actually marry my neurosis of how I like to tag things and keep everything organized. And one of the cool things about the Google form is the questions that I ask. Not only can I plug that into the Agent Locator profile that gets created for them, but then I can go in there and pin because I'll type it into, because I'm a tactile person. So I'll type it and I'll remember them going forward, pin it at the top. And then every time it pops up, I'm like, oh, and I don't have to go back And what I started doing was numbering the form to the lead, so I can go into my Google Forms if I'm out and about and say, oh, you're number 56. Pull it up, there you go. So, it's just been a really refreshing to have a efficient system.
Yes.
And I have my numbers in terms of like lead costs, what I've been doing, that sort of thing. So I'm actually excited to put more money in.
Well, and you're in a very expensive market for PPC.
Yes.
I know cost per leads in Alexandria. It's ridiculous. It's almost cost prohibitive. I mean, it's really truly almost cost prohibitive because it's just so there's just so much competition.
And I've been there, and that's the thing that I found, where you're getting a rental lead for under $5. My buyer lead cost, because I've done that, was about $50 to $70. And then a specific seller lead was about $250 to $350. And you're still waiting anyways if you're getting an online lead. Why
100%.
not work with them as a renter and go with them through their entire journey for less than a cup of coffee?
Oh, I love you. And it's building that pipeline, and it truly, so question, and I might be kind of going a little out of league here. I don't want to like shake the trees too much, but there probably is a way, if you haven't figured out already, when they fill out the Google form, you could have Zapier add a label or a tag to that client in there, so that, are you utilizing your system and tagging like they filled out the form filled out, or form filled, or so you're tagging them?
Yes, I am.
So
manually when I'm filling out the rest of because I'll go in and I'll look at their profile. They're not particularly interesting until they've filled out that form. And even in the form, it asks you, are you renting, buying, or selling? And it's literally 2 pages, maybe about 25 questions. Most of them you have to answer, because I would need that information. At that point, and that's something that I learned early on with renters, or just leads in general. The more information you know up front, the easier you can adjust your workflow. You can make sure you're working with them when you need to. And I've tweaked my forms, and I've tweaked what I've been doing since I've started really in December with this. And just you kind of learn as you go, like, oh, I actually need to fix this hole, or I need to get this campaign. And I didn't start my campaigns until like the second week of January. I was procrastinating bad. It was kind of embarrassing, but I finally got going, and I was just like, all right, I'm just going to start a campaign, because I felt like I was losing that opportunity for the first round of leads I was paying for. Finally got my campaign going, and sometimes it's like you gain courage as you go. And I was like, okay, this isn't as scary as I thought it was going to be, or this huge system that has like a million modules to go through. I kind of zipped through them pretty quickly. I was like, all right, I overthink everything. But the system makes it a lot easier once you just kind of dive in, where you're not overthinking it, because you already know what you need to do. You just sit down, make your calls, or mute your contacts. I do a lot of email back and forth, a lot of text messages, and you answered a lot of the same questions, especially with renters. So I have like this draft template email where I just go in and copy and paste the answer and pop it in, and I'm done in like 30 seconds. But efficiency, especially with renters, is key. And you really only want to talk to the ones that are working inside of the system you've created. And I have a Facebook page, and they'll like send me a message on the side, and I'll just reroute them to the form, and I'm like, fill this out. And then finally they do, and then I'm ready to talk to them. Like, I'm polite, but if they're not going through the funnel that I've created in a system that I can see, track, and monitor, then you're all over the place. Then you're losing leads. So this is a way to kind of marry two different functions into one, and then just keep on top of it.
For sure. So did you get a text message, Julia?
I did. I wasn't sure if that was, did you need the code?
I do.
Okay, 3672.
Hopefully it didn't time out.
Yeah, I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah, it did. I'm gonna hit resend code. The user is not authenticated. Now it won't resend the code. I have to put all your information and log back all over again. So while I'm getting in here, what I want to ask you, Julia, we have another 45-ish minutes together.
Yeah.
How can we help you level up even a little bit more? What is the rock on your shoe? And what would you like to walk away with today? And you're like, wow, that was really worth my time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, some of the tags I don't know that don't really make sense to me. Like I don't know what they mean, and I was looking for kind of in the help section, like the correlation to it, and I couldn't find it. So I was like completely overlooking that.
A lot of them may not make sense for you because they may not really be what you need. And that's what I was loving about this conversation, because this is going to really, the labels that we have are a template, and they can be changed and moved and work for you. Okay, you should have got another code.
All right, let me see here. I did 6742. 6742. So I have been creating my own labels as I've been going, just different tags and stuff. So it's been helpful. I feel like so mainly just the tags, and then the other thing too is like the campaigns. I'm in the process of building a different version of the rental campaign I'm using. I basically used yours and then added in a bunch of stuff. But I have a new campaign sequence that I want to build. And so that's what I've been working on. It's just very tedious. But I keep putting it off. But other than that, and then sometimes, and I think I had said this previously, Crystal, was something, it's you don't know what you don't know, just because I'm not using the full capacity of the locator platform. So if there's things in there that I don't know, and you're like, hey, this might be helpful to you, like I definitely want to know that. But one of the big things for me was once the leads started coming in, like it's been nonstop. And so sometimes coming back around to the training portion or getting back in there and saying, what new thing can I learn? Unfortunately, it kind of gets pushed back to the end of the day, or that's like, all right, I'll work on it tomorrow, put it in my calendar. So that's on me. But for what I've been able to do and kind of navigate, been very happy. So
okay, well, I'm going to share my screen. So what I did is I just went and pulled up your tags, because this is the first thing that I kind of want to conquer and help you to really understand what the tags are and why we group them the way we group them.
Okay.
I look at AgentLocator in the system as, if you've never heard my trainings before, and I always like to go back to this because it warrants a repeat. I look at it as your store that's holding your inventory. Okay. Your inventory being every lead that's coming in. And that inventory needs to be separated just like inventory in a store. Because if everything was just back in the stock room, you'd never be able to find it. So the main importance of using a system like AgentLocator is to really help it work for you to build the aisles and the shelving within your store. So every lead, there's two types of leads, the ones that you've talked to and the ones you haven't talked to, right? I know what's going on in your life and what needs to happen to utilize my service. I have no idea, right? So when you're looking at priority, and to your point, when you want to work the leads, how do you work them? And you're already really rising the higher priority leads at the top, because obviously the ones that are filling out the Google form, hello, they got my attention. They took the time to fill out the form. They deserve time on my calendar, because if they did that, they have more of an opportunity in our future, right? Everybody else would just kind of go by the wayside. And there was one other thing that you said that really struck me when it comes to clarifying and classifying all your leads, because as you're answering questions, you had made the comment that there's a lot of repetitiveness in the answers that you're giving. That in and of itself is a drip campaign. Like a, hey, did you know?
Mhm.
Right? Because there's only so many questions you can ask about certain things.
Yeah.
But once you start getting to the point of sounding like that broken record, that's when you know I've got a great idea for a campaign, because nobody knows this.
Yep.
And everyone's asking this. So I would definitely take those questions and create your campaign from those questions, because then you're feeding people information.
Yes.
Hey, did you know? Oh,
Yep.
just by the way.
Yep. That's what I'm actually doing now. I have some articles, different things. I haven't started shooting the video yet that I want to kind of pepper in. But that is, I found that at least the current format of the rental campaign that they're on is basically more informational. Like, I don't want to bore them to death, but sometimes it's like, what is the rental process? What do you need? Like, things that are helpful. And the other thing too is it's actually creating a longer one, because you are going to get to a point where either they found a rental and they're good and they just kind of ignore you at that point, or you may have not gotten them on this pass, but they're probably going to be a buyer in the next couple of years. So you want to transition to talking about rentals, since you still want to like honor that initial point of contact, and like not this way, like dismiss what they've inquired about, what their initial, why did they come across you? But then also start to educate about the pros and cons of buying and selling. I don't care what somebody does, but if I can help them, that's what I want to do. And then just talk about that. So it's more of a natural flow to you're probably a renter this year, whether or not I helped you or not, but you are probably going to be a buyer in the future. Here's more good information about buying, and trying to keep it relevant and easy to read. And somebody had told me, when you're communicating with somebody that doesn't know you, keep it really simple. Don't insult them, but make it so that they're not like, what does this mean? And like get too technical. So that's just one of the projects that I've been working on, is a more robust, better filled, like across the board, a better campaign that I want to build. So
one is truly understanding that this is a marathon, not a sprint. And the more organized your database is, the more it's going to work for you. So when you are having conversations with people or you're reading their forms, the questions that you're asking on the form, in my opinion, some of those answers could possibly be a good tag for you.
Yes.
Because the one thing that you want to remember is the way that we can filter. We can go in and search for leads that are opening emails. We can go in and search for leads on particular dynamic, but the tags are static. And the tags for me, I want to create a tag that I don't actually have to look through all of the notes. I want to be able to search my entire database by they have pets, or they have challenged credit, or they have to have a garage, right? Those things that we can't search and filter for, that's dynamic. So when we create the tags by the importance of why aren't they utilizing our service? Why would they need to utilize our service? That's your tag. That way you have that ability to search. So it's the same way as you're having conversations and as you're filling out the forms, like, that'd be a good tag to be a search feature.
Yes.
So what we've done with the tags is we've grouped them, because they're not, I mean, you can see they're kind of all, if you didn't alphabetize them or you didn't do something to make them stand out, color code, it would take you 5 minutes to find the tag to apply it.
Yes.
So we've set it up that they're in groups. So like your C, that's all communication.
Yep.
When you find the lead's favored form of communication, you can put that tag on there, and that tells you, oh, I gotta send this person a text, or oh, I gotta call this person on a day, or oh, I gotta call this person at night. So they're pretty self-explanatory. The FO is just a future opportunity, because so many people just say, oh, I'm just looking, or oh, I'm on hold, I'm not buying right now. You know, all of those things that they could be future potential,
Okay.
but not right now.
Okay.
So like you had said, it's really being able to, let's just say, stack your leads based on the priority.
Mhm.
So if you're a future opportunity, I don't really need to do anything with you right now, but the campaign that you're just now talking about, you could have a future opportunity tag that says previous renter, or just rented, or rented, because that could be your future opportunity to go, oh, hey, I didn't help these people with their rental, but I know that they've just rented.
Mhm.
So then you're going to have a group of renters that aren't going to be buying for a while, or may not know why they're buying. But then you can put that as a situation. And then you definitely have your time frames in here.
Mhm.
So if you have rented or renter, then you can put your time frame on here based on when their lease is expiring.
Mhm.
So if you're utilizing it based on when their lease is expiring, then that's when it gets really good.
Yeah.
Because then you're hitting them right at that perfect time. So let's say their lease is expiring in April. You want to start talking to them in February, March.
Mhm.
What are you doing? Maybe
Mhm.
even January, February, right? Like,
Yeah.
what are your plans? How can we transition you? And where I would say that your most important spot is within the lead, right here, I would want to know when their leases are expiring.
Yeah.
That would be the most important thing for me to know right there.
Okay.
And that could potentially, you could do a month, like you could do a tag that would be lease expires, and you could have the month, and you could have 12 tags with their lease expiring on what month. And then all you need to do is go in and search your tags by, you're always going to be months ahead, right? So here we are in March. You could be searching and working with your May and June tags.
Mhm.
And that could be your hot list, because you don't want to call everybody, but
Yeah.
that could be your hot list depending on how many people you have in there. Those are the ones that you want to call, because you really do want to find out, are you going to sign another year lease, or are you planning on transitioning into a buyer?
Yes.
So I think that would be a great tag for you
Okay.
to be able to sort and filter that. But I would look at, and how our tags really began in the creations was from having those same, and I'm not even going to call them objections, because it's their situation. I can't make you buy a house right now if you're not ready to buy a house.
Mhm.
What I can do is ask you what has to happen for you to buy that house. And the reasons that you get of what has to happen is another tag.
Mhm.
Kids have to graduate. Mom's got to pass away. We get that one, right? Well, I'm just waiting on the settlement. The relocation, you know, all these reasons, whatever is repetitive, create the tag for it. And what was fun for me, because believe it or not, I didn't wake up and go, oh my God, I love calling leads and I can't wait to call leads. Where it got fun for me is when I started creating my system, because then it became more of a science experiment to see what tags do I need? What kind of conversations am I going to have so that I can build my database to make sense in the future? So it takes the phone calls to a whole new level, right? I'm not just calling you to close you. I'm calling you to figure you out and figure out my dashboard so that it's working for me.
That makes sense.
So that within every conversation, just think about, okay, what would make sense? Is this something that I would want to search?
Okay.
Is there a problem or is there situation something that I have enough people that have that same problem or have that same situation that I could group them into that tag so that I can then communicate? And that's how you can really start building different campaigns.
Okay.
Because if you have certain people with certain situations, you can speak directly to them. And that's really what created the whole tagging. Let me see if it'll pull up here. So let's just say, for example, in our situation, you have renting, retiring, relocating, first-time home buyer. Those are all separate campaigns that could be created to speak directly to that lead to help prepare them for their future.
Okay.
So I would look through your tags and just get rid of what doesn't make sense for you, and maybe just change around some things and go, oh no, that one's not going to work for me. Oh, that gives me an idea. Maybe I'm going to start looking into now, even military. That's a great tag because you do have a lot of military up there.
Yeah, we do.
And you have, do you still now? Because I know they, like the Pentagon and the government, they weren't really hiring, but back, because I started real estate in 2005 and we had, I mean, it was like everybody was moving into the DC area, metro area, and everybody they wanted to live where they worked, but then they realized they couldn't afford it.
Yes.
So me out in Culpeper was the second best place, right? It was either Winchester or Culpeper or down Stafford, down that way, Fredericksburg, right? But when they're military, they usually have to be closer to bases or whatever. Do you have a lot of people that you find in the rental market that are going to be moving from somewhere else into that location to work as a government job?
Absolutely. I work with a lot of State Department. I do more government workers and contractors. I work with military, but it's a wide range of leads coming in, because there's the leads that are coming in from the system, and then there's the leads that I work and I have and get from my brokerage as well. That's like maybe 3 or 4, throughout the week. But the majority of all my leads are either I've created them myself, I'm on a different platform, or they're coming in from here, paid wise. But they come through, but it is helpful to know that they are military, because of the fact that, one, you can search for it, but their timeline is really exact. And almost all of them have housing allowances. So that's a factor. And if you know the area, and you ask them, and I find people are very forthcoming when they realize that your intention is to help. And if I don't get an answer that I deem satisfactory, I'm going to ask again, but in a different way. Partly because I need to know, but just knowing the military, knowing to have pets. I have even here like Section 8 housing. The tag that I have put in pink were the month that they're moving. And the other day I was just like, all right, well, who are all my March tags? And it pulled up like 11 people. Those are the 11 people I'm going to be working with. Or focusing on.
Yes.
And then
not to confuse, right?
Yes.
Because here you've got months of that situation, but then you're also going to have renters with their expiration situation too.
And I'll change the date. So if I know they've gotten to a lease, I just had a client, a really great couple, Frank and Lisa. They just signed their lease yesterday. I don't know if they're in my system yet. They might be, but I can go back in there like you'd recommended. Their March 14th lease start day. I know when their lease ends. I have a copy of the lease, and I'll just put in, here's their lease, put 2024, put them on a buyer campaign backwards, but it's just one of the, and they're government actually. And I don't have a specific tag for that, but in my notes, I know you have Desiree pulled up. She just came in as a lead, but if you go down to Christine, you'll see it. I don't have the ability to blur it out. I don't think.
Well, then I think the names, I think I can see the names. I just
Yeah,
can't
it's
see.
on the side. It's the third one down. There it is, her. I just created a cart for her. If you want to, I don't know if you can click into her name, or I'll just read you what I'm. What's that?
Completed intake form.
Yeah, so in
That
there, if you were to open her actual contact at the top, if you go to the notes section, oh, there it is. So obviously it's been blurred out, but that's the info, those are the answers for the intake form. And so it makes it really easy to, and there's some redundancy, but it's really the only way I'll remember anything. So I have to put it in multiple times, but it allows me to be able to see what's happening. And then for her, she's a mid-May, so she has the May 23 tag there. And so I know that in April, I'm going to be more focused on making sure I'm reaching out to her. I can check her activity in my MLS to make sure she's looking at her properties, constantly asking. And that's something that I found with renters is, or just real estate in general, the more appointments you go on and the more times you offer to show somebody property, the higher likelihood that you are going to end up closing that transaction, whether they're renting or buying, or you're stopping by and talking to a seller or just reaching out. And so one thing that I have drilled into my work ethic and just habits is constantly offering to show property. And I've had people say, well, don't you think you're going to get like overwhelmed? And the answer is no, because across the board, week to week, you don't have 40 people that all want to see property. You have maybe 5 or 10. And if you don't have 5 or 10 opportunities throughout a week to go show property, and especially the better you get at this process, you can almost self-eliminate, and they do there as well. So you're not showing 100 properties at most. For most renters, I'm showing like 3 to 4 maybe. And then they're applying for something. And a lot of it's just upfront education, a lot of talking back and forth, not overwhelming them, but it makes the process very streamlined. So it's not taxing. And so really for me, my goal at this point is just volume. I want a lot of leads because I want to get them to the point through the funnel where they're filling out a form, we're talking, I created a cart for them, I'm showing them property, they're applying for, a property, signing a lease, I'm getting paid. Now that's a long-term client of mine for the future. And you're getting paid multiple times, which is why I'm just like, why wouldn't you work with a renter? I have an SUV, so I need gas money. So this is what I do. I work with a lot of renters to get that taken care of. Plus, in my market, you're not making money hand over fist. But if you're getting paid multiple times a week, that's a pretty good feeling when you're like, hey, I got paid this morning and you haven't even gotten paid, and you just do that over and over again. But it really is one of those things where this is still a new system for me. And I'm always tweaking the process, but I found myself, I have my app, like my AgentLocator open all day long, just because my phone and my app are constantly blinging with the green light, or my phone's going off or whatever. So I know things are happening behind the scenes a lot without me. And I am constantly looking for ways to tweak it and make improvements that make sense for me. And then some things you don't know, and then other things you're learning. And I, read through the Facebook forum. I think I read everything, and I'm just like taking notes, like, oh, somebody did this, or that was an interesting idea. How can I apply that into this system in my business, where I can see a benefit from that, or at least give it a shot and see if I can get a benefit from it.
I love it. All right. I do have a question for you.
Yeah,
Are you utilizing this section up here on the top?
I do. I try and clear it out pretty quickly, like obsessively pretty fast, try and answer questions. Because I know that they're around their device. If they've messaged me, I think that if I send a text from here, from what I understand, they get it pretty fast. So there's not much of a delay, if any. And a lot of times they're responding back pretty quickly, or they're asking something or something I can get to. One thing I've noticed about this, and I know this is kind of counter to everything you hear, and I'm only going to say this applies just for me and the way I run rentals, is that a lead comes in at any point, but I am not, I don't feel pressured to call within like the first 5 minutes. Largely because I know the system's going to at least make an initial contact and you're good to go there. But it doesn't mean that you can just forget about it and get to it like in a week. That's not responsible either. But allowing you to work through whatever your schedule is that day, still get to your people. And a lot of times I found the runners, at least around here, are pretty relaxed. So as long as you get to them within a day or two, it never takes me that long, but they don't really care. So it's helpful to just get the correspondence back and forth. And if you can answer their question or solve their problem or preemptively, because we all know what our clients are going to do for future clients, and we have all the answers. We've been doing this long enough that sometimes I will preemptively just answer the next question for them. And then they're like so surprised. I'm like, you read my mind. Not really. But it's helpful because then it makes you look like you know what you're doing. You do. But it's just one of those things where I think a lot of times, and especially for rentals, a lot of people don't see the value in it. Probably because they haven't seen the ability to create ridiculous amounts of income, but then also really, really good long-term clients. And once you get a taste of that efficiency, it's almost a no-brainer. And so I tell everybody, it's like, you should be doing rentals. You don't have to do 1 million, but if you've got 4 to 5 a month, you're going to do really well. And for me, for every 10 renters I do, that's a new buyer for the next year. So and I know those numbers well enough to where it makes sense to do it because I've got 15 to 20 buyers a year that I pretty much can bank on top of every other lead source and nurture that I have. So you can make a very comfortable living by doing some really simple things.
Well, I think Julie is the trainer today.
I know, right?
I'm just really obsessed about rentals, and I am beyond thrilled that this is a good match. And it's almost as if it was fortunate that I didn't get the full Cadillac service of buyer sellers for my market. It's coming. I've been told that it's there, but I'm almost I don't even care.
That's awesome. Julia, the other piece I just want to make sure of, are you utilizing the pipeline stages?
So this is the thing that I did have a question about this, and I think it's because I may not understand the trigger, and I've heard it in some of the other trainings. When you're changing the pipeline, I was under the impression that it stopped the campaign. Is that true?
Typically an initial campaign, it really depends on how it was set up. I would have to look at your campaigns because I know you tweaked it, but generally speaking, yes, it will. I think the actions, and again, I can look, but as soon as somebody replies or you speak to them on the phone or, their pipeline moves to make contact and it stops the campaign and or certain aspects of it. So sometimes like the emails will still go out, but the text messages that are prompting for a general response, those all stop because we've now connected with this person. We don't need those prompts. So generally, yes, we'd have to look at yours if it's been tweaked or anything like that, just to see, because you can have it so that those just the SMSs that have to do with, hey, haven't heard from you. Those type ones, kind of, they stop going out. But still, if you're building on that campaign, it can continue to go.
Okay. I don't mind I have actually fewer text messages in mine just because I found most renters are text or email. They tend to respond better to the emails. I've gotten a lot of like stop or stop emails where it tells me they unsubscribed. Don't really care as long as I can ensure, or at least hopefully, they're still getting the emails. So the important stuff's in the emails, which is what I care about. But as they're coming in, so one of the things that happens is once they finish, if they filled out a form, depending on, I think for Christine, she's mid-May, so I would have put in, and I consider that warm, it's like 3 months out. If they're like August, December, then I usually put them into cold. It really just depends on like communications back and forth, and kind of you get a feel for what people do. And they always say cut everything by half, but sometimes with renters, they really can't do anything for 30 to 60 days just because of the situation they're in. So with Christine, she's mid-May, so I would have likely moved her, I haven't yet, to warm and nurturing. And then because she's tagged for May, as I work that, I'll update the pipeline as I go. But one of the things that I do have to go back to the main form is in a lead that's just come in. If we go back to Deirdre, I think, where it puts you in the status. So I think it's like open, qualified, unsubscribed. Do you know that tag I'm talking about?
Good. So which one? Sorry.
So if you just click her, and then we just scroll.
Who you want me to click on?
Yeah, just scroll down a little bit if you don't mind. Keep going. And then in here, if we go to see where it says lead data, I don't know what that means, but what I've been doing was once I get their information, I'll put it under qualified because I have qualified them at that point. I don't know if that's what I'm supposed to be doing, but that's what I'm doing.
You can. There's no harm in doing it.
Okay.
It's a matter of if you're using that and referencing it, and it's really what it comes down to.
I do. I mean, because it helps me know. And the other thing too, in my tags, I will I created a cart for them, which indicates I put them into the MLS, and then that they did complete an intake form. So I think I have so far, and I've added manually leads as well, but I've generated, where's that picture? 345 leads so far. My total is 370. So some of these I've been adding, but it makes it a lot easier if I just like, I want to see everybody who I've created a cart for or it's completed an intake form. And so sometimes that filtering is like really helpful because then you're just like, well, this is what I'm working on today. And so sometimes it's just cleaning up that form.
Well, and that's what I want to be sure that you were utilizing, because it's always good to have that catch net. And so you have the tags working in your best interest. So I look at tags. When you think of a store and inventory, I think of the tags as the shelves in the store that have the little labels on, that you know exactly which Oreo cookies go in which section, because they have like 50 different types of Oreos now, right? So you know when they're out of the Oreos that you want, when the shelf's empty, but the tag's still sitting there saying what it is, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I look at the tags. It's stagnant. Now, when I look at the pipeline status, I look at that as the overhanging sign in the store that's telling me where the tags are. So if I go into a store that I've never been in before and I need to go pick up bread, I'm looking for the bread. I go to the bread aisle and then I'm looking for the tag. So if you look at your status of your pipeline in that manner, you're really condensing it down even more, because the store in the front could say bread, but you still got to walk the whole store, right?
Yeah, that's right.
You're going to walk every aisle to see. It's like, okay, great, we got the tags, but who within these tags are in what category? And when you think of your pipeline as, I have a new lead that's coming in, my goal, my long-term goal is to get them to sold.
Mm-hmm.
What situations are they going through to get to sold?
Mm-hmm.
Where are they hanging out at? Once we've got them tagged, where are they hanging out at that makes the most sense, so that you can, because you could have somebody in, let's see, you could have somebody in make contact, but are they hot? Are they warm? Or are they cold?
Mm-hmm.
That way, if you go to everybody's make contact, you have to open up the notes to know what that conversation was. But if you have them tagged and you have them in the pipeline, you can really get a good idea of how strong that pipeline is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's helpful. It really is. I have right now, I think, because my account is so new, that enough time, I'm still in the cold, warm, hot phase. And the ones that I've met up with and I've showed property, then I've gone back in, did showings, different things like that. And it's been helpful. One thing I should mention is because of where I'm located and how my leads, just with Facebook and the radius, is I do get Maryland and DC leads as well. And sometimes you find out just based on what they're filling out in your form. And so I will archive the ones I'm not working, just because it's not that I don't care about them. I make sure that I have a colleague that I've partnered with, and so they're like, send everything my way. So it's been helpful, but I'll archive them out because it's just not something I'm going to be working. I don't want to purge them. Maybe I should, but either way, they're kind of collecting dust on the back end. So.
Yep. Well, and you can even tag those as DC and Maryland too.
Well, I do.
So then you, yeah.
But I still archive them, so it's not cluttering up the stuff I have. But yeah, it's more of a learning curve, I think. Just getting in here and I've sometimes just sat here. I'm like, what is this? And I'll just click on it and see what it's doing, and then look at the help section and watch the video or read the article about it and go that way.
I mean, truly, the whole key is knowing how you're tagging them, knowing how you're putting them in the pipeline, so that you're now having the system work for you.
Yeah.
And the way you're doing it, you're building it to duplicate it. So let's just say, for example, you just get so big you can't handle it anymore and you need another agent. You have your systems and your processes that when they fill out this form, this is what happens to the lead. They get this tag, they get this note, they get moved to this stage of the pipeline. And you can truly teach someone how to work this.
Yeah, I love that.
And what campaign to put on these leads. And that's going to be your gift of being able to really truly work this, because a database, in my opinion, with names and phone numbers is just a glorified phone book if it's not organized. But once you organize it, you've created so much value, because you can allocate every conversation that you've had just based on, I could come in here and do two things. I could look at every stage of the pipeline and see what your business looks like over the next year to 2 years. I can go and look at how many people you have on what tags to be able to know and understand the quality of the conversations, right? Because you can't tag them until you know.
Yeah.
So when I start looking at the quality of the conversations based on how many people you have in what tags, there's value in that. Because it's something that's truly workable. But you've really created a beautiful machine here and utilize the tools of the purpose of why AgentLocator, why we've created it the way it's been created. Because that's what always drove me crazy. We have all these names and phone numbers, but how do I know who? you know, you sit here and you look at it and you're like, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
But when you're organizing them based on conversations and based on, and I love how you're structuring it with the form, you're letting them do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm all about making technology work for you. Now, when you send them the form, do you do it in a bit.ly link? Like, how do you send them the form?
It's a bit.ly link, actually a tiny URL, but it's super short. Anytime they have a question, and I know I can check, obviously, if I have their contact in here, if they filled it out, I do my part. So as a partnership to help somebody, I need them to do their part as well. Ironically, it's almost identical to the same questions that I ask an incoming buyer. But this one's specifically made for renters, so you're not confusing them. They don't think you're trying to do a bait and switch. But I just I send it via text. I mean, I have it saved so I can send it from anywhere. I'll send it in an email form. It's at the bottom of every single, and it's just like, hey, if you haven't already, please fill out this form and I'll create a custom cart for you. It's so weird when you tell somebody you'll create something special for them. They immediately think that you're like, oh, you got it. I have to take the time to do it. But
well, you're setting yourself apart.
Yeah, well,
you're
sometimes
making
it's
it
just the
easy.
language. Yeah.
You're making it easy for them.
So it's super, and sometimes I've had to send it multiple times, or they'll just text me back what they want, and I will reroute them back, fill out this form, I need this information. And it is a very good vetting process. And if somebody doesn't, I've had people like, why do you need this? I actually have a template of an answer that's thorough, and most of the time I send that out. Within like an hour, I actually get the form filled out.
Mm-hmm.
So if you reduce the resistance to get what you want, and you're showing that they are going to get something valuable in return, the exchange is almost seamless, where they make it benefit. And the other thing too is you go in as soon as they fill it out, or as soon as you can, create that cart for them, deliver on what you said you're going to do. And a lot of times the relationship pretty much starts at that point. It starts beforehand, but you really don't have anything sticky until you're able to see what they're looking at, figure out if they're realistic or not. That's something that I get often. Is in my market, it's expensive, unfortunately. And they're like, I want a single family home for $1,000. And I'm like, you'll get the basic, you know? And so sometimes it's going, or they didn't answer a question, or maybe they have an eviction, or maybe a bankruptcy, and I need to know more. And so I will at that point call them and say, hey, could you explain more about this? And they're like, oh yeah, you know, or I have a question, or something just isn't adding up. And I'm not afraid to get on the phone, but if I'm going to be on the phone, one, I want to make sure I'm valuing my time, but also theirs. So we are going back, and again, if I don't like the answer they gave, or not like, but if it's not enough for me to work with, then you ask again. And then sometimes you realize, hey, maybe I haven't created enough trust or enough value yet. And then you put a pin in it, and then you come back to it in a little bit. And you just work from there. But the point is to not overwhelm yourself where you're stressed out. And this system, and however you create your platform, to what works best for you in your business, should be able to aid you in being efficient and productive. 100%. And that's how I want to work. So that's what I've been.
And I know we've got people like, what is she doing this form? It's a Google form, right? You just go into Google, create a form. Yep. It gives you a link.
It's super. I don't know if I can. Can I pull that over here?
This is what I see here is, so created cart.
Yep.
Completed intake form.
Yep.
42 intake forms out of 350 leads.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
So I have, as of right now, I have 58, because I have my lender go through it, because I wanted him to see. And that's actually one of the things that's really beneficial about a form is when they, can I do a screen share? Can you see this? Since people are asked, actually, I don't think I can, because there's private information here. So never mind. I'll read it to the side.
But what I'm thinking, if you're comfortable sharing the form.
Yeah.
I think what I've done when I share, I just please tell people I'll share it, but just make a damn copy, because I don't want you to screw up my stuff. What I would probably do, Julia, is do a screenshot.
Okay.
And email it to Crystal.
Okay.
And then Crystal can send that out to the people that were on the, this is huge, guys. She spent hours creating this and putting this together. This is gold.
Yeah. But basically what I do, and I have a dummy one that I filled out, but it does ask you, what do you need? And so what happens is, as the buyers, so after I got off the phone with you, Crystal, I made a couple calls that afternoon. And my first 5 leads, one of them was a buyer, and they went directly to my lender. And so right now, of the leads that have come in, I have about 6 buyers in here. 4 of them have already talked to the lender, and they're kind of in the process, and they're like the May to June range. And so they are in here. And that's one of the things about the questions that you're asking, is you can create whatever you want in the form. These are the questions that I want to know specifically. And then as the relationship develops, I'll probably get more, but it makes it really easy. So as soon as I know they're a buyer, I have an ongoing email thread with my lender, and I just put in their name, I save it. So I have a leads folder on my computer, and I just add their name, and everything that I'm asking is the same thing that they get to see. So it makes that process a lot more streamlined for my lender. He loves it. I love it. We work as a team. The end goal is he's going to help me close more buyer leads. I want to make sure I'm giving him as much information as I can. And we don't have to go a million back and forth, because he's got everything that he's looking for, which is why I asked him, hey, could you fill this out? Is there something in here that you're missing? I don't mind asking. I don't have a problem asking people anything. So he's like, no, this is great. And he just extracts what he needs, and then we just go from there. But the process, and then one of the cool things I think in the system is you can add your lender or tag them. So if I've sent them to my guy, Eric, I'll go into their profile and indicate that lead has been added, or now my guy, Eric, has it as well. So that makes it easier to track in the same vein. So I like it. But I will send you the form that I'm using.
Yeah,
so that you guys can have it. But
you've got it locked, stocked, and barrel, girl.
I think the biggest thing will be taking that form and seeing if we can help with getting those answers automatically thrown into the system for you, so you're not having to manually do that. You know that it's already there. And then you can do triggers as well. So, and again, this could be another session once you're kind of going, is triggering those campaigns that you're maybe sending them with all the information. I looked at your campaigns. You got one that has your manual send one, and how somehow do it so it's automatically triggered, because you can do that. So that maybe you tag them with something, it just triggers that campaign.
Okay. A lot of times I think it's because they're the ones that are coming from the Facebook page, where they reached out to me. And in my Facebook page, I actually included the link, so it pops up. And when you start to see the conversations, like, hey, Jenny, thanks so much for reaching out, fill out this form. And so the people are starting to see, if you want something from me, you got to fill out this form. And then when I realized they didn't come through the ad funnel, that's where I have to go in and do the manual, or my broker, and they're not going to come through the form. Now, there is a little bit of a difference, is that sometimes it's a lead that came from my broker, and I need to either ask them these questions, which I do. Then I don't always go in and fill out the criteria form for them, so it's in here. Sometimes I just go right into the system and just enter in the information, because I already have it, because I've talked with them directly. So still trying to work that out. But a lot of the thing is, this is more to handle the volume of the leads that are just coming in consistently. So it's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it has been a pleasure meeting you. What a breath of fresh air. I love your attitude. Keep that smile, you keep that attitude. You're going big places, girl.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you for the opportunity to sit down and in the hot seat and talk with you guys.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
I think you've opened up some opportunity for people to see a bigger picture than just being a lead generator.
Yeah,
Oh,
I hope they
absolutely.
do. If I could say anything to anybody that's listening or sees this later, if you haven't done rental leads, and you don't need a really big budget, like right now I'm at $600 a month, and I'm going to be increasing it, but there's a lot of business in here that just is like down the road. And if you just have a good system and a good platform to work through, you will more than make your money back, and you'll just have more money in general. But I would definitely encourage people to try rental leads, even on a smaller budget. I think the minimum you probably need is about $150 really to get any traction. But it might be something that you find that it helps your business, or if nothing else, it keeps you busy. If you're worried about not having enough to do. But I would encourage, for the people that are not sure, you can make a lot. I would do.
I have to run. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
You all
Julia.
have a
We'll be in
wonderful
touch.
day, and I'll see you. Oh my gosh, in April.
I know. Oh my gosh.
Thank you guys. I'll send the form out.
Time.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Julia. We'll chat soon.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.